Okay, so this graph here, federal surplus or deficit. So this line right here, this black line represents zero. Anything above this line would indicate that the federal government was in a surplus. Anything below this line, we could see towards in later years especially, indicates that we are in a deficit. This is not a graph representing the federal debt. These numbers don't represent the amount of debt that we accumulated. These are just deficits over any given year. So it goes back from 1910 all the way until current 2022. We can see the zero mark. We haven't really seen any action up until around the 1940s, a little tiny bit. World War II in 1943, 1944, we're at 1945, World War II. These shaded areas represent where you see dark gray represents recessions, recessions in American history. So as you can see, we haven't really seen much action up until around starting our first point where it really starts to dip into the 1980s. So there was a small recession within 1980 from between 1981 and 1982. We see a deficit of around 127,000. That's it. That's not that much. And then during this expansion period, it goes up a little bit, but it kind of remains stagnant overall. And then again during the 1990, within 1990, there's another small recession, and we see a dip immediately following, which indicates more government spending, probably in bailouts, to stimulate the economy. We see immediately following recessions, there's a incline in deficit spending. So here around 1992, it's negative 290,321. And then this great expansion occurs, and which we reach our peak in the year 2000. So this great expansion from the 90s to the 2000s, we finally break even, and we're around a surplus of, if I can get it, 236,241 in 2000. And then we see here there's another small recession, but on top of that, we have 9/11, which indicates a steep, and we go below towards the deficit, a steep increase in government spending between 2000 and 2003, which indicates probably the Iraq invasion, Afghanistan invasion, and our military spending, which goes way down here to 2003. And then there's a incline here. So from 2000 to 2003, those 3 years, we haven't recovered. We haven't been able to emerge from our deficit since 2003. All the way current today in 2022. Obviously, the 2008 crisis is significant. The housing crisis of 2008, so 2007 here, we're at negative 160, and we dip all the way down to negative. Finally, we reach a million. So negative, we're in a million, negative a million, 412,000. And then all the way up here, we finally have a little brief expansion period, and then COVID. We hit COVID in the year 2020. So this 1 year alone, from 2019 up until 2020, we reach 3 billion. Is that a billion? No, 3 million. 2020. So we're at a deficit of negative 3 million. And current now, it has gone up since the pandemic. But again, these numbers are not adjusted for inflation. They only represent deficit spending in any given year. So these points here represent the changes from any given year of government spending, and the black line represents zero, where anything above represents a government revenue is greater than government spending, a surplus, and anything below represents deficit, which means government spending is greater than its revenue.